What's going on, guys? Patrick here from PatrickOnlineRealty.com, powered by eXp Realty. And today we're going to go over 4 reasons why you may want to invest in real estate in Hawaii, specifically in Oahu. We're going to go over 4 main reasons why it's a great place to store your cash. So let's jump into it. All right, guys, so like I mentioned before, we're going to go over the 4 reasons why you may want to invest in Hawaii. So let's just jump into it. Number 1, multiple markets. So if you're looking to purchase a property out here in Hawaii, the one thing that I really like about purchasing property in Hawaii is that we have multiple markets from a buyer standpoint. And what I mean by that is if you're going to buy a property, let's say, I don't know, in North Carolina or Ohio or somewhere like that, you basically have the local market, right? And that's about it. I don't know that many people that actually probably want to travel to Ohio or North Carolina. Nothing against them, but keep this in mind. Everybody wants to come to Hawaii. Everybody wants to live in Hawaii. Everybody wants to vacation in Hawaii. And we have lots of different sub-markets. We have the military. We have a ton of military bases out here. So a lot of the military will come out here, they PCS, and they'll be here for 3 years, and then they leave, and then a new crew comes in. And they are given a BAH, or basic allowance of housing, to pay to either rent or buy a place. So that keeps the economy very much alive in the real estate game, in the rental, buying and selling market. So you have that market. I don't think is ever gonna leave. This is a very strategic place for the military to be, and they're pumping money into the economy. So that market is gonna stay strong and ain't going nowhere. Then on top of that, you've got the foreign market, you've got Europe, you've got the Japanese market, you have the Chinese market, you have the mainland market, people from the mainland who want to move here, snowbirds. You have this new tech market that's coming over here, people working remotely that want to live in this beautiful place. So we have so many different markets that come here to either buy, live, invest, that if one drops out, there's 3 other that are going to take their space. So it's not like if the market crashes, let's say in the United States, well, guess what? You've got the Japanese, the Chinese, and the Europe market that could pick up the slack. And there's lots of different places that don't have that same situation. So if the market crashes in the US, a lot of the mainland prices of homes are all going to crash, right? But that's not the same for Hawaii, specifically because we have so many other markets that pick up the slack. Reason number 2, appreciation. Now, a lot of investor clients that I've worked with, especially beginner investors, they look at Hawaii and they go, I would never invest there because the cash flow is horrible. You can never get it. And they're absolutely right. It's very difficult to find properties that cash flow. And what I mean by that is, basically your expenses, your mortgage payment, all of that. And when you throw a renter in that, the rents exceed your expenses. So that means anything extra you have cash flow. And that's great. But having a couple extra $100 a month doesn't excite me too much. I mean, if you're making $200 a month on a property, that's basically $2,400 of taxable income. So you're going to get taxed on that. And that's not going to change your life. Now, mind you, if you get 6, 7, 10, 20 doors, then yes, cash flow makes sense. But here in Hawaii, the main strategy is appreciation. And that's because we have such a strong and stable market for that same reason I mentioned before, the multiple markets that pick up the slack when things dip. So as you can see from this chart right here, we've seen the prices of homes in Hawaii steadily growing for the last 30 years. On average, the annual appreciation is about 4 to 7%. And sometimes we'll have crazy years where it's 10, 18, or like we had this year, we had 27% appreciation for single family homes. So some people really made out well. And that's simply for the fact that there's only so much space we have out here. Everybody wants to live in Hawaii, and it just pushes the prices up. So it's really about getting in the game and holding on to that asset for as long as you can and building wealth through appreciation. Let's put a side-by-side comparison. If you get cash flow, $200, $2,400 a year, taxable. Let's call it $2,000 after taxes. Now, if you purchase a property, let's say a townhouse for $600,000 at a 6% annual appreciation, in the first year, you're going to make 36 grand in appreciation. And that's in equity. That's 36 grand compared to $2,400. And then on top of it, that hasn't been taxed yet. That's equity. And you can pull that equity out in a HELOC, cash out refinance, what have you. But then that starts compounding every single year. And that's where the magic really happens. So let's take a look at a chart so you can see one of the 8th wonders of the world, compounding interest, when it comes to appreciation and purchasing a home. So if you can see in this chart, if you purchase a home for $650,000 and you have a 4% annual return on that investment in the form of equity for the next 5 years, your $650,000 property is going to be worth $790,000 in just 5 years. That is a chunk of change to make, and much more than just $2,400 a year. And that's why appreciation is really the way to go. Now, on the flip side, let's say that we actually get a great market and it's at 6%. So if you bought a $650,000 property at 6% annual appreciation, compounding for the next 5 years, that property is now worth $869,000. So as you guys can see, appreciation and with the effect and the eighth wonder of the world, compounding interest, that's really where the money's at. I could really care less about cash flow. I'm more in the appreciation game, and you should be as well if you're looking to invest in Hawaii. Now, the third thing I want to go over is possibly a reason why you may want to or may not want to invest in Hawaii. And so we're going to kind of play both sides. My general rule of thumb is if you're going to own a property for less than 3 years, and that's the bare minimum, I really prefer if you own it for at least 5 years, then maybe you shouldn't invest in Hawaii, because the time and energy it takes to not only get the property, but when you need to sell the property in 3 years, having only 3 years of compounding interest of appreciation and factoring in, well, maybe the market just flattens out or doesn't appreciate significantly, you don't have the best chances to getting the best return. The magic area is about 5 to 7 years where you're going to see massive returns because you can ride the wave, right? The real estate market is very cyclical. Fortunately, out here in Hawaii, it's pretty steady, but we do have certain times where it maybe flattens out for a bit. And you want to make sure you own that asset for enough time to allow that compounding interest to kick in, because you will have expenses when you need to sell the property. So general rule of thumb, if you're planning on owning the house for less than 3 years, don't invest in Hawaii. But if you are planning on owning it for more than 3, 5, or 7 years, definitely invest in Hawaii, because compounding interest will be your best friend to building wealth. Number 4, multiple rental markets. Now, using that same example I had before, Ohio and North Carolina, you basically only have one rental market. Long-term renters, people that have a 6-month or 1-year lease that you can rent to. That's good and great. But what if I told you out here in Hawaii, we have 3 rental markets. First rental market is, of course, the long-term, 6 months to a year plus leases. Those ones, you'll get a good amount of money. Hopefully it'll cover your mortgage. The second one is short-term, people for 30 days or less. Now I have a video up in here. We can look at some of the rules and regulations. It can be a little bit difficult to find a place that's licensed for that or zoned for that for short term. That's basically like the Airbnbs and the short term rentals. But that's another way that you can create potentially great cash flow on your property. But that's another market that you can possibly rent to. And the third market that has just recently really started to pop off is the midterm rental market. And that's for these people who are living out here, but working remotely and don't plan to rent or live out here for a significant amount of time. Maybe they're looking to live out here for 3 months or just under 6 months. That's another market. The long term, you're going to charge, bare minimum. Short term, you're going to charge the max. And the mid 3 to 6 months, you're going to charge somewhere in the middle where you're going to furnish the place and do all that stuff. So you have 3 different markets you could potentially rent to depending on your zoning, your strategies, and things of that nature. But it's always good to have options. And out here in Hawaii, you got options. All right, guys. So like I mentioned before, those are 4 reasons why you may or may not want to invest in Hawaii. If you guys have any questions, please put them in the comment section down below. Or if you're looking to invest in Hawaii and need someone to guide you through the process, I'd be happy to be that person for you. I am a licensed agent out here in Oahu and on the surrounding islands. So feel free to contact me. Got my contact information right here, or you can DM me on any of my social media platforms right up here. And lastly, guys, if you guys could do me a huge favor, if you got any value from this video, if you could smash that like button as well as click the subscribe and notification bell so you can get notified whenever I drop videos just like this. And I am Patrick with PatrickLawrenRealty.com, powered by eXp Realty. You guys have a beautiful day. I'll talk to you soon. Aloha.